Hello everybody, this is PotterBrony, and welcome to another blind reaction to some more Team 4-Star stuff. This time I have DBCember top 24 movies and specials. I'm going to go through 11 through number 1. Missed it earlier this week. Now we have the rest of the list, and let's just get started. Going to watch both the videos that they just posted, 4 through 1. I've been holding on to 11 through 5. So, starting 11 through 5. In 3, 2, 1, go. Alright, let's see what they have in store for us.
11.
Pastels everywhere!
Yeah, you know, the color palette in this special is oddly pale in comparison to the others, isn't it?
This is Yo! Son Goku and His Friends Return, an OVA released at Jump Super Anime Tour in 2008 in honor of Weekly Shonen Jump's 40th anniversary. If you've ever heard of this before, it's most likely because this special introduces a brand new character.
Vegeta's brother, Tabo.
And his weird-looking wife.
Vegetable. Vegeta. Tabo. Yay!
This special isn't especially good because of its story or its animation, but because it's one of the few entries on this list that feels distinctly Toriyama, top to bottom. Everyone feels in character, the art is incredibly charming, the action scenes are vibrant and full of wonderful motion, and despite the weird pull of Vegeta having a younger brother, it's oddly in line with Toriyama's eclectic writing style.
Also, we dare you to find a better villain name than Avocado.
Its biggest strength is, funny enough, its biggest weakness. It's fan service, top to bottom. It brings us back to these wonderful characters after over a decade of no new Dragon Ball animation, but that's kind of all there is to it. The villains are throwaway and the story is complete fluff.
But it's really all about the character interactions here and seeing our classic friends in new, modern animation. Unfortunately, its releases were pretty stifled and it never got a proper US release. But it's honestly pretty easy to find online if you search for it.
Which we highly recommend you do if you haven't seen it yet. It's charming, adorable fun, and exactly what we'd love to see more of from the franchise. Now, if you don't mind, I've got me some onions to farm.
10.
Woohoo! Top 10, bitches! Oh, come on, Kaiser. Just because it has Goku in his GT outfit, the music sucks, and the plot is just a retelling of the Red Ribbon and Peel-Off arcs doesn't make it any less beautifully animated and engaging.
I'm sorry, but I just feel like this movie has a ton of money dumped into a lazy idea. I mean, sure, they got Bulma's hair right for once. The animation is absolutely stunning, nearly on the level of the best of the modern material, if not better in some regards. The stuff with Ader is legit adorbs, and it packs a ton into its running time. It still feels poorly paced, oddly fragmented, and it has Dan Dan as the ending song, not romantic, I get it, yo!
While all those critiques you made are valid, you can't ignore how well some of those classic scenes are retold in this movie, with such scale and beauty that really makes you wonder why this movie wasn't more heavily pushed in the US, or Japan for that matter.
Honestly, it earns a place by making Yamcha look legitimately intimidating. I mean, for about 30 seconds, until he returns to himself. But those are a groundbreaking 30 seconds, plus this shot.
Okay, that power-up is pretty spectacular. Also, it's the only animated interpretation that stays true to the manga. Bulma never hits him with the car.
But she still shoots him, right?
Oh yeah, Bulma's straight cold-blooded. Fine, it could be in the top 10, by virtue of beauty and it being a Dragon Ball film. Even though, goddamn, Dan Kokoro, he got a f***ing tattoo!
9.
Oh, he really hates that, huh?
Find us a Jaeger!
Eren Yeager?
No, the Pacific Rim Jaeger. We've got a kaiju on the
No.
loose.
You know, I don't think
No,
any
don't
of us
mess
ever
with Eren
wanted
Yeager
kaiju
again.
on Dragon Ball. But
That
here
might
Wrath the
cause
Dragon
problems.
is providing us with one of the scariest, most terrifying monsters in the entire franchise in the form of Hirudegarde.
It also gives us one of the more unique and interesting original characters Toei Animation ever created, Tapion. He's like a mixture of Link and Chrono, complete with a bitchin' mohawk and a tragic past. Oh, and Trunks' sword, which, yeah, not even gonna try to explain why that doesn't make a lick of sense.
His tragedy spans worlds, as an ancient evil has been sealed away in both his and his younger brother.
I mean, Toriyama designed Chrono,
Tapion's
so...
being further locked away in a magic music box. Through the machinations of this little gremlin named Hoi, he is set free, and so is all hell. But not before we get some fascinating interactions between Tapion and Trunks that are very unique to this film, and offer a much more character-driven story than any of the previous movies on this list, and maybe on the entire list in general. It's also beautifully animated top to bottom, featuring some of the most on-model animation in the franchise and beautiful fight scenes.
Unfortunately, without spoiling too much, the ending really does kind of drop the ball in terms of how they defeat the villain. And while the monster certainly looks unique and terrifying, there's not much to it.
It's a beautiful movie with a terrifying though shallow villain, a fascinating original protagonist, sincere character moments, and some thrilling action. However, its pacing problems, unnecessary padding, and a highly questionable ending drag it lower on the list. Still, a must-see for Dragon Ball fans.
8.
Wait, is this BoJack?
I have good reasons. I swear I have good reasons.
All right, but if we don't agree, I am flipping this with Lord Slug, so help me.
Okay. Look, this movie is all about BoJack, the leader of the Galaxy Soldiers, a group of space gingers who are also pirates. Apparently, they were set free when King Kai's planet went up in smoke. During the middle of a tournament held by some rich jackoffs, they decide to attack Earth and wipe out any possible obstacles on their way to intergalactic domination.
And don't tell me, Goku and the gang must stop them?
No, actually. Goku's dead. Like, dead. And has barely any involvement in this movie besides being an otherworldly spectator. I mean, okay, there's one scene where he gets involved, and Lord, is that infuriating in its own right. But besides that, no Goku.
I do have to admit it's particularly nice to see the focus on so many characters that in movies prior were mostly put on the sidelines.
The tournament setup even allows for an unlikely battle between Trunks and Ten Shinhan that is a total treat, utilizing all the best elements of Z.
And also has beautiful, imaginative scenery, even though it does devolve a bit into a murky, deserted cityscape near the end. And Gohan's power-up sequence against BoJack's goons is downright breathtaking.
Too bad the villains are about as interesting as a stack of teal and orange bricks. But you know, par for the course at this point, am I right?
Hey, Zonka's still hot.
Yeah, so is Beto. Oh, what? When he says it, it's fine, but when I say it, it's weird?
7.
You know, I'm not sure how people are gonna feel about the placement on this list.
I think it's exactly where it needs to be. In the top 10.
I really did
not
enjoy
the
this
top
movie.
5.
This movie is considered a sequel to the 2013 film Battle of Gods, and is all about the return of the franchise's greatest villain, Frieza. Remnants of his army have gathered the Dragon Balls and returned their tyrannical ruler back to lead their scattered forces. But all that's on old Frieza's mind is revenge.
Now, we should preface this immediately. One of the reasons this is so high on this list is that it feels like an actual full-length Dragon Ball film, with a full coherent story structure, character and plot development relevant to the series, and a beautiful animation. In most spots.
However, the truth is, this is a noticeably flawed production. While the first half of the movie is absolutely wonderful, showing us shades of development for the characters from their previous outing, introducing Jocko into the main story, and giving us some great character interactions that all feel both classic Dragon Ball and uniquely contemporary.
The second half of this film is stifled by an utter lack of tension as new forms are presented with great fanfare but little actual meat. It's made worse when we find out just how little Frieza's upgrade means.
Also, Blooper Saiyan, aka Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan God, Super
It's still an enjoyable film, even with its massive flaws. Though I am in it, so I suppose there's a wee bit of bias there. But we can truly, honestly put this in the top 10 just because of how utterly entertaining it is regardless.
The fight against the soldiers is one of the best action sequences the series has ever produced, and it should be noted that this is by far one of the funniest
Is he still
movies in the
muttering Super
franchise
Saiyan
as
God
well.
in the back?
If you ever want to see a more in-depth review
Yeah,
of
he
this movie
is.
from us, check our YouTube channel.
Super Saiyan God. Blue. So, quick question. Is it stronger than Super Saiyan 4?
6.
I never understood why this movie was called Fusion Reborn. Everyone was still doing it at this time in the series.
Semantics aside, this movie is pretty spectacular. In a hilarious series of events involving the Otherworld's soul cleansing machine, all the denizens of hell have been let loose. But more terrifying is the evil known as Janemba, the culmination of all siphoned evil from hell.
So you're telling me that the villain is a big, fat, jolly creature that turns into an even more menacing, pinkish creature of pure evil?
Yeah, Taka, all of the movies rip off the show. Well, almost all of them anyway.
Honestly, while Janemba is a shameless ripoff of Boo, he's also particularly entertaining in his own right. Even in his giant baby-like form, his capacity for destruction is enormous. Not to mention, the way that Otherworld distorts is uniquely strange and bizarre, offering up some incredibly quirky visuals.
Both before and after he transforms into his true form, he showcases some spectacular abilities, such as summoning his own demonic sword, creating dimensional portals, and deconstructing himself at will.
Why do I get the sudden urge to play with Legos?
And on Earth, we get to see the consequences of hell opening up as some brief cameos are made by classic villains, like Frieza.
And Hitler!
And of course, this is the only appearance of Gogeta in the entire series
Classic.
outside the games.
Well, you mean before Super Saiyan 4 Go?
Lenny, I swear to God, I'll burn your apartment down.
If it weren't for the fact that the final battle is disappointingly short, Janemba is devoid of any actual character, and the movie spends a little too much time dragging its feet until the climax, this might be higher on the list.
But it certainly earns its
Well,
spot in the
nothing
top
is
10 by being
perfect.
funny, full of fantastic action, and offering some unique visuals, concepts, and the instrument of a million fanfictions, Gogeta.
I wonder if we'll get Gogeta in Dragon Ball Super. Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Gogeta, Super God, Blue Super, Blue God.
Yeah. All right.
I'm glad Pilaf made it into one of these original movies.
I don't know, he's more like a ripoff of Piccolo Jr. if you ask me. Son of a would-be guardian of Earth, out for revenge, mixed with a little bit of Raditz, what with him kidnapping Gohan and all.
Can we just take a moment to acknowledge that his name is just flat out Garlic Jr., and when we were kids we didn't even bat an eye?
Probably because this movie is just so damn good. It features some of the best animation of its time for the franchise, a villain with actual motivation steeped in the series lore, a set of minions that are quirky and threatening.
And we even get to see Kami get in on the action. Although the plot hole of Garlic Jr. trying to kill Piccolo before using the Dragon Balls is kind of severe. Kind of a huge logistical oversight.
Plot hole aside,
Yeah.
you can definitely feel some of the classic Dragon Ball aesthetic in the art.
Pretty
and
sure they
music
made fun of that in
This
their
being
dub
the
of
first
it.
Z movie definitely accounts
Their
for
bridge
that,
version.
and you get some incredibly choreographed fight scenes here.
Dead Zone isn't all about the muscles, the violence, and the power levels. It's about rescue, revenge,
And Gohan peeing in Krillin's mouth.
thus starting the long line of Krillin being treated like garbage in the movies. Anyone ever notice that?
And everywhere
They
else.
basically made a running gag out of how useless he is in these films.
The defeat of the villain is also relatively original in regards to the series.
Although the amount of hubris on display here is astonishing even for this franchise.
Regardless, Dead Zone definitely earns its spot at number 5. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna have myself an apple.
Okay. So that was 11 through 5. Now pulling up 4 through 1. Starting the video in 3, 2, 1, go.
Well, this one most definitely holds a special place in my heart.
As it should, and not just because you play Trunks in our series. History of Trunks is the tale of the titular character's haunted, apocalyptic future, where the androids have wreaked havoc, and it's up to this timeline's Gohan and him to
Yeah,
save what's
this
left
was one of my
the world.
favorites too.
Easily one of the bleakest, darkest entries on the list. A good portion of the movie is spent on the androids destroying the cities, terrorizing people, and basically just having the time of their lives as they bring death everywhere they go.
But it's also about the developing relationship between Trunks and Gohan, and the growth of Trunks into the young man we see in the series. It's by no means perfect, and suffers from questionable logic in a few places, but its subject matter and willingness to delve into such a depressing, dark subject really helps it stand out.
There really is almost no feature like this on the list, with the exception of the next special, and it's definitely a classic in the franchise, featuring one of the best Super Saiyan transformations in the series.
Dark, emotional, and expanding upon the lore of the universe, History of Trunks is one of the finest contributions into the history of Dragon Ball. Which, again, could very well be said about the next entry on the list.
3,
Oh.
Remember how we talked about episode
Yeah.
of Bardock completely missing the point of Bardock's character? Well, here's the special that really gives you the down and dirty. And boy, is it both down and dirty.
Bardock, the father of Goku, is a member of the Saiyan squadron employed by the tyrannical overlord Frieza, meant to conquer planets in order to sell them off under Frieza's bidding. However, when a routine mission goes awry, he finds himself given the power to see the future, and the future isn't very bright.
Well, except for the explosion of his planet. Probably want to wear shades for that one. Unless you're Frieza, in which case...
Not that kind of bright.
This special is really fascinating because it has no trouble thrusting you into the meat of the action, giving you a brief introduction of Baby Goku and then switching immediately over to Bardock, well, doing his job. a job he seems particularly happy doing.
Yeah, see, the Saiyans always seem pretty content to mercilessly slaughter the inhabitants of whatever planet Frieza pointed them to, and Bardock is no different. He's a violent, self-serving asshole whose only real concern outside of his own safety seems to be his crew.
His own son is a write-off in his eyes due to his measly power level, and he seems proud of how well he and his team do their jobs. And that's what makes him a fascinating character. Bardock isn't a good person, he's just the protagonist.
Don't let the English dub fool you either. Until the very end of this film, Bardock is a stone-cold killer out to stop Frieza from destroying his race. At no point does he repent. He merely finds solace in knowing that Goku will carry on the legacy of the Saiyans and defeat Frieza.
So the march to the end of days for Bardock is a sordid, depressing tale that we all know will end in tragedy, at least for Bardock and the Saiyans. And the action and drama on display here are fantastic.
Long story short, this is one of the most tragic stories in the entire series, told with a completely atypical protagonist that expands the lore of the franchise. It definitely earns its spot in the top 3.
Now, let's return to some more light-hearted fare, shall we?
I'm so excited!
2,
Alright, let's see.
Yes!
Okay, while Kaiser is busy fangirling in the back, let's talk about how World's Strongest made it to number 2 on this list. The premise opens with Gohan and Oolong searching for the Dragon Balls. What they come across is the evil Dr. Kochin, who's already gathered the orbs to thaw the frozen overlayer of his master, Dr. Wheelo.
The evil scientist, reduced to nothing but his brain, is seeking out a new body to inhabit, the world's strongest man. When he erroneously assumes it to be Master Roshi, his sights turn to Goku after Bulma accidentally spills the beans.
This movie is one of the only ones on the list that steals almost nothing of its premise from the series. Dr. Wheelo is an entirely new villain, top to bottom, and his bio-warriors are only somewhat similar to
They're
the
really
androids
using
in
that
Dragon Ball
phrase top to
beforehand.
bottom.
Hell, an evil scientist reduced to a brain utilizing artificially created warriors to hunt down Goku? It's like a rough draft for the Android saga.
Although, one thing this movie does rip whole hog is the design of the Biomen. It's like, what, did they think we'd suddenly forget what Cybermen look like? Hell, Piccolo even kills one of them in the exact same way.
Yeah, but besides the familiar Kamehameha battle near the end and obligatory Spirit Bomb win, that's where the similarities stop, and what we're left with is a beautifully animated original plot about Goku having to save not only his friends, but his kinda sorta rival from the clutches of Dr. Wheelo. Hell, even Master Roshi gets in on the action, in a big way.
And we are treated to not just
Yeah, I
some
do
of the
like when they
fun
make
in the
him look
series,
good.
but inventive action sequences that really play to the strengths of that old animation style. The game of death progression to Wheelo's compound is so engaging, and the fight against Piccolo, absolutely worth every second. And they even managed to fit in Gohan's rage boost in an inventive manner.
Jesus, Kaiser, if you love this movie so much, why don't you just abridge it?
Maybe I will. 2 million subscribers, bitches. You heard me. That's when we'll do World's Strongest.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. If you haven't seen World's Strongest yet, fix that immediately.
Before we cover our number 1, let's go over some honorable mentions.
Oh, fuck, no. No.
1,
Moving past that, where's the mind bleach?
Sure, we understand there might be a little bit of blowback for this pick, but we do stand by this choice 100%.
Some of you might believe that this is because it's one of the newer movies, and thus we think it's better because of it. But considering Plan to Eradicate the Super Saiyans is all the way near the bottom of the list, sitting right next to Episode of Bardock, I hope it's apparent that that isn't the case.
Battle of Gods was the first to be widely considered canon by the fanbase, and the first film period in over 17 years.
It's all about the god of destruction, Lord Beerus, who has awakened from his extensive slumber early due to a premonition that a strong warrior would soon present themselves to challenge him. A Super Saiyan god. His assistant Whis instructs him that the only possible candidates reside on Earth, with the exception of Goku, on King Kai's.
What we're presented with is a franchise first, a film that expands the canon lore of the series, expands the story, and gives us legitimate character development.
One of our biggest gripes with the films is how the characters barely change from beginning to end, and it never honestly feels like the events of the story have left any real impact on them. Here, though, we see Goku's cockiness lead to a humiliating defeat, expressions of frustration with the God power-up, and an exploration into his character that no other movie provides.
Even better, Vegeta is taken full advantage of here, both showing his development since the Buu saga by openly embarrassing himself to the end of saving his family and newly accepted home, and by showing his devotion to his wife? In the form of one of the film's most satisfying sequences.
But maybe most groundbreaking about this film is the villain. Another
And Goku
sticking
made fun of
point
him
the
for it.
films is their lack of real character to be found with any of the villains. Beerus, on the other hand, he's one of the best villains in the franchise. Period.
He's complex, intimidating, but most of all, hilarious. He swings between wildly immature and impeccably cool at the drop of a hat. His casual attitude mixed with bouts of rage alone would make him stand out, but it's all pulled together by the immense power
Yeah, I do
and
like
glory
that
he
character.
exudes in every scene. His introduction alone is enough to sell you on him. He's not afraid to be silly, but there's nobody you want to cross less. And let's not even get started on Whis and how he plays into the overall story. Hell, he's one of the reasons Resurrection F was as good as it was. He's a character unlike the entire franchise has ever seen. Both him and Beerus own every scene they're in. Now, if only these guys had gotten just a little less screen time.
Yeah, while they definitely work in their scenes while interacting with other characters, on their own, these three are boring and completely pointless.
But that's a small price to pay for a film that set a bright, shiny new standard for Dragon Ball films.
And that's it, folks. Thank you so much for joining us for another DBCember as we expressed our love
talk in a minute.
other emotions for the long, wild ride through the series-long list of movies and specials.
It was a ton of fun returning to all of them, and we'd absolutely love to get your feedback on this list in the comments below.
But for now, sayonara, and have a happy DBCember.
Alright, you as well, guys. Okay, so that was a list, and I have to say I agree with a lot of what they had said. Yeah, a lot of what they said had made sense, and the placement of all those films on the list seemed to work for me as well. So I'm gonna have to defer to these guys as far as my list pretty much matches theirs in that case. And the reasons were really good as to why it should be where it should be. Only problem I had with it is, why the hell did you show Dragon Ball Evolution? I know it was the honorable mention list, but that's not even part of it. Fall of Man and Light of Hope are more canon than that freaking pile of shit. So, that being said, I want to thank you all for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed that, and I'm just going to end this one here. Until next time, take care. Bye.